Hi everyone, Steve Westman here. Welcome to another episode of the Audiophiles. This is my almost weekly Mobile Fidelity Analog Productions Roundtable news and discussion. We're going to have a fun one today, so stay tuned for that. And if you haven't already, click on that subscription button. It helps me out a ton. Let's get to it. We'll see you on the other side of the Audiophiles. Hi everyone, welcome to the Audiophile. I got two amazing guests today. Norman Mazzy Maslov from his YouTube channel. Hello Norman, thanks for joining me here on the Mofi and Analogue Productions Audiophile Vinyl News and Roundtable. And Nathan Goss, how are you? Big time.
Hey, thank you.
Yeah, big time writer of the different Mofi forums. I love your reviews of a lot of the albums. I love when I get to see your posts, and always refreshing to see your side of things. So thank you guys for joining me today on my roundtable discussion. Lots of news out there. Maybe we'll start with, I guess, Analogue Productions UHQR Steely Dan catalog. We were sort of talking on the top before we started this about, how many albums are going to be pressed and when they're going to be pressed and that type of thing. So let's start with that. What do you guys think of the big news this week or the last week of UHQR and the Steely Dan catalog?
It was leaked a little bit early, so that it kind of played to our advantage because they kind of made that website mistake that let everybody know that all 6 titles were on their way, at least at some point.
You know what's interesting about that? It was leaked long before 2 weeks ago. I actually there was an email that went out when they first released the newest 2 titles. They did just the regular. They, on their website the same day it was released, they actually announced all the titles on 45 RPM, and I caught a screenshot of that.
I have that too.
You have that too. So I knew about this for months on end. So when I talked to Chad, he wouldn't say anything. When I did my interview with Chad, I was like, "Oh, is it Steely Dan? Is it Asian?" Like, I can't say, but I mean, obviously, if you watch his facial expressions in that interview, it's sort of, you can sort of tell I was on the right track there. So,
and in that clue, they had the little thing, which I'm in this side of interest, that if these sell out, or supposedly when they sell out, they're going to do the double 45, much like they do Lynyrd Skynyrd and the Doors. And if people watching me know my dislike of the boxes and all the extra space and everything, and I'm not convinced on the super vinyl stuff.
Are you all right? Are you gonna be all right? Are you shaking?
Yeah,
yet?
I have that one,
Okay.
and I have I compare them to World Book, Encyclopedia, or law libraries.
They're
but
supposed to be encyclopedias. That's the whole idea of what they're supposed to look like.
I get that. So just to let you know, I only pre-ordered one of the UHQR because I want to know, and I don't know why I did Asia, just because. And I said it, I had a video out last week. I worked for ABC Records in 77, 8, and 9, and up until when MCA bought them, and I worked for MCA for a year. So I was around when Asia came out and the Greatest Hits double album and plus I have all my originals because I'm that generation. And I played them also in the last week. And oh my God, they sound so good. So I'm not one that, and I'm not a big 45 RPM fan usually. And so I'm going to also try out this 33 digital even.
So Mazzy, here's the thing. So exactly 45 years ago today, where do you think you were?
I think it was when is that when that hit the charts?
45 years ago today, September 23rd, 1977. So
Wow.
If you were at ABC Records, this was a big day.
I started right after it came out. I started working on the second and third singles, Josie, and I forget the other one.
This is the AB 1006, and this is phenomenal. Like, this is top shelf. Even the cover. I mean, I've got it in the plastic right now, but I mean, it's absolutely. I mean, it can't be mint because I've been using it, but I mean, it's.
I cringe when I think back. I had 3 to 4 boxes of promo copies of that record at my house, stamped promos, ABC. I don't know what the AB is because in those days we didn't look at the dead wax. But I had promo copies from the first batch that I was able to give away, and I ended up after I lost my job, I sold them to a record store.
So if my viewers don't know, this is the original. It's an AB 1006, I believe. So there's also ones in the dead wax that say AB, but the B scratched out. It'll be A and then 1006. And so these are the ones that are mastered by Bernie Grundman. And when I spoke to Bernie Grundman on my channel, I asked him what his favorite best sounding record was. The one I'm holding in my hand right now.
Yeah.
This exact one. This is his best sounding record other than Michael Jackson's Thriller. And Norman, you'll probably like this. I've got the Canadian version too. Original red.
I didn't know that. Yep. That's the ABC label during my day. That's for sure.
Yeah. And then also too, if you're going with Asia, Kevin Gray, he did the Cisco version, which I have here. This is a Cisco version. This is
you're being a show off. It's like me with Revolver.
2000. I got some Revolver behind me too. 2007. So Kevin Gray will be on next week, and he's going to tell me all about his experience cutting the Asia Cisco album. Because I asked him, I said, "Did you guys use original tapes?" And he goes, "When I'm on your channel next week, I'll tell you the whole story. So stay tuned for that."
Was it with him and Steve Hoffman?
No, it was not Hoffman on that one. It was just him. And then on one thing about Asia, it's 45 years ago today. So I asked Chad from Analogue Productions, okay, so the master tape wasn't used. He goes, no, I mean, obviously we know that if you look at their website, it was an analog copy. He says it was a one-off EQ'd tape, half-inch 15 IPS Dolby is what he said. And that's all he knows. So basically it was a flat, it's basically an EQ'd tape that they would have given to Bernie to cut to vinyl.
Yeah, and he's letting us know that, which I think is what most of us are just looking for is those details prior to making purchases.
Yeah.
Right.
And he doesn't know. I asked him, so he doesn't know the story about the master or anything like that, because that's all I know.
I'm fine with that. It's kind of like all the records I grew up with. If it was a British band, I got copies anyway, because the American and vice versa.
Yeah.
Usually, if the Brits got American bands, they would get a copy of the tape, and so it wasn't a big deal. I'm not so focused in on that part of it.
So I'm going to quickly change, because I know you mentioned Revolver, Norm. So you're a big Beatles fan. You tell the viewers you are actually an author. You actually have published a book on the Beatles, if I'm not mistaken, correct?
I did. My partner and I at the time, David Bacon, and I did what is considered, which is the first travel guidebook of England, the Beatles England. So it came out literally 40 years ago this year. 1982, and it's all the sites. There's a London section, Abbey Road, Olympic Studios, Apple Records, places they wrote about, and then there's a Liverpool section, which is Strawberry Fields, Penny Lane, their houses, and there's a day tripping section, which has Magic Mystery Tour, Hamburg, all those kind of things. And I went on a walking tour. I went to the Concert for George show at the Royal Albert Hall in was it whenever it was 2003 or 4, whenever
2002, I think
2002. And year after George died. And I went on the walking tour with the guy, and I'm blank on his name, and I signed up ahead of time, and he introduced me halfway through as Norman Maslov and his partner David invented Beatle tourism, because it was great being these two San Francisco young guys writing this book because when I went to college. After college, I went backpacking through Europe. I went to Abbey Road. I went to Strawberry Fields, and you'd go to the tour bureau and say, "Hey, where are these places?" And they would say, "There's nothing here to see. There's nothing here to see." So we did the book, and that's how it.
How did it end up doing? Did you sell lots?
We sold about 40,000 copies, which, there was a Japanese edition Sony did, Doubleday, Columbus did a British edition. So for that type of book, it had a built-in audience. It's outdated. You could probably get used copies on eBay, pay more for shipping than the book now, that type of thing.
So big news last week. We found out, we have the Revolver Super Deluxe coming out October 28th. Nathan, it's one of the albums is going to be the mono Revolver album, cut AAA, brand new master by Sean McGee, which we found out through our friend Miles Showell, who will be on my channel on Monday. I'm doing an interview with him Monday at 1 a.m. So I'll have that released Tuesday morning of next week as well. So I got a busy week next week. Yeah. So he confirmed that. Now, growing up with the Beatles, I always had the Canadian or the North American pressing. So here's my trivia question. I know Mazzy's going to know this one. This is my UK stereo. This is a 1984 stereo UK. It's actually sounds incredible. It's one of those hot stamper ones. If you're familiar with the hot stamper stuff.
Yep.
So what two songs are on the UK version? Because this is the thing. If you're a North American, maybe you never listened to the UK version of Revolver. There's two more songs on three on the
three
UK
songs
version.
were taken off that like 6 months ahead of time for that. I'm only sleeping. Oh, were you asking Nathan or
no? Whoever wants to go. I think it's good. It's good trivia.
I'm only sleeping. The three Lennon songs.
And Your Bird Can Sing and Dr. Robert.
So three Lennon songs. They take off.
So
we got it early.
Yeah. And so you got the Butcher cover, right? So the Butcher cover has those three songs that are on the UK version here, which aren't on the North American Revolver. So when we get the Super Deluxe, if anyone's only listened to the North American Revolver, they're going to get those three songs that were released on this Butcher cover, which was pasted over in 1966. And I guess a lot of people were upset with the Butcher cover and burned it and whatever they did. And now I'm sure Norman has a few copies of the Butcher somewhere in that collection. So you can imagine you got two. Yeah. So, I mean, you can imagine the how much these are going for these days. I mean, I think they're actually worth more if you don't peel them off, if you leave the peel on.
There's different, they call first state, second state, third state. It's a long story. But, you know, when the CDs came out for the first time in 86, 87, the Beatles CDs, Capitol in America, North America, finally changed the configuration. So all the LPs from 86, 87 on are all the British, they discontinued the American versions. And mixes were different too. The three mixes on Yesterday and Today are different mixes also. So.
That's right. That's very good. Yeah, absolutely. That's some good trivia. I love this too. Like when you live in Canada, like you get these imported record labels here. It's like, ooh, it's very fancy because it's not a North American pressing. So they have to make a point that it emphasizes it's been imported from the UK. It's kind of funny. So Nathan, anything you want to add for this week's news? I know when Mofi has released reissuing a few titles. I noticed the last day or two. Billy Joel, The Stranger's coming out again.
I think really I didn't pick up the Randy Travis the pre-order on that. So I'd be curious to see if so far everything I've read about is pretty favorable, and that's really kind of a rarity from Mofi. I mean, they don't do a lot of titles in the country genre, so that's kind of a unique one that's out there, and maybe there'll be some traction to release some other titles kind of in that same vein.
And I think support Randy Travis. I don't know if you guys know about Randy Travis. He's really struggling health-wise. He's not doing very well at all. So, I mean, I hope they sell all of his records out, because I think probably at this point, if the guy's not touring, he probably won't be able to. I think his family needs money, right? So, I mean, I think support him that way as well. And he's, his family and himself are struggling big time right now. If you didn't know
last Mofi I picked up a month ago now was the Kilimanjaro Miles, because I'm still to this day, even after all this quote debacle or revelation, I still love except for Kind of Blue, all the Miles, and I have most original Miles. I think the Mofi's beat it by far, from my point of view.
Hold on, you don't like Kind of Blue?
I don't like and I have it. The
Mofi version.
Mofi version. Yeah, I love the record. I mean, of course, I love what Chad did, but I didn't get the 45. I'm a 33 guy if I can. Like I have 70 or so Music Matters jazz records. Half of them are 45s, and if someone walked in with 33 versions of all those Mofi, all those MMJs, I would trade them, even though they're more valuable. I like the listening experience of a 33.
So you put it out there. If someone has that, come over to Norman's house. He'll trade it straight up.
I would, because it's not about the price; it's about the music and that experience. And I'm not against 45s, but that's just my personal take.
They're flushing out all those Miles Davises to prepare the way for the super vinyl reissues. Is what's happening.
And those would be 33s, right? Is that true? Probably.
Yeah, from my understanding, unless it goes to a one step, which I think a lot of that's kind of TBD at this point. Nothing's been confirmed one way or the other. It makes sense in my opinion to do them all as 33 super vinyl issues and keep the price lower.
Well, those are very appealing to me. Those would be appealing to me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Even DSD, you know, we know they're DSD now, so.
I agree though with you. I'm not a fan of kind of blue in any other way other than 33. I think that album does not make sense spread out over 4 sides, but that's just my take on it. It's basically one track, one song per side. It just doesn't work for me. I like the mood that it sets with 2 sides, but
unless you're A-Being, I mean, from my point of view, you don't hear, I mean, you don't know what you're missing. Yeah, there's a little more there. And I've had people say, oh, the 45 obliterates the 33 of something. That's not in my, believe me, I've enjoyed regular records for 40 years. So
yeah, I have the 45 and the 33. And I mean, there's, you know, I mean, I do my shootouts in a pretty pristine system, okay, at the Hi-Fi Center downtown here. And 45 beats it for sure, but not by too much. You're not sitting there going, oh my God, this is the best thing we've heard. It's definitely wider. The kind of blue sounds wider, and you might be able to pick up, you know, maybe the bass a little bit cleaner or whatnot. But for, you know, you're like, for, I mean, 33 RPM, you don't have to get off your ass, you know, a bunch of times to do this. I mean, it's pretty, you're not missing out too much more by not getting the 45. I guess that's what I want to say. Does that make sense?
Sit in my sweet spot with a cocktail, let the record play for 20 minutes, and then turn it over, whatever.
Yes.
And that's going to be interesting too, right? So, okay, so here's the thing. Let's go back to it. We got Asia coming out at 45. So hang on. So right now it's Black Cow, you know, it's Black Cow, Asia, Deacon Blues, and then Pig, Home at Last. I got the News and Josie right on the second side. So what will it be? Black Cow and Asia side 1, Deacon Blues, Pig side 2, Home at Last. Like, how are they going to do this?
There you go. I don't know.
They'll probably try to keep it to 10 minutes to each side.
But there's 7 songs.
Right.
Maybe a blank side. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. You know, the whole thing is about licensing. You know, I work as a photo agent, so I know about licensing of photography and for a period of time and a scope and like North America versus worldwide. And I'm sure Irving Azov, who manages both the Eagles, ironically, and Steely Dan, very shrewd businessman, and with cooperation with Universal, said, okay, you can do the 45s, you can't do the 33s. I'm still surprised that they're doing this digital thing. Why? You know, maybe they didn't want, maybe that was part of the negotiation. I don't want, because I think that would have brought people away from $150 45 if they got a good 33 like Marvin Gaye we got, you know, last year with the Kevin Gray cut. And, you know, can you imagine a $35, $40 Steely Dan catalog, all analog 33s?
Well, they would probably sell more than 15,000 per title.
But see, those when it's Universal, there's no licensing, so they make more money. They're unlimited. I'm sure there's a unit thing they have negotiated with Chad. I mean, maybe if it sells so much, he could go back. I don't know, but that's why maybe after that he can go and do a 45 without the box. We'll see.
Yeah. But I think Chad's philosophy with this whole thing is very different. Like, he is not about exclusivity. Like, he wants people to be able to, at any given time, go out and get the best version or the best sounding copy, if possible, of some of these great records. And I think there's a lot of merit in that, because all of us want to have these things in our collection. Unfortunately, you know, a lot of times space and time and money limit those things. But I mean, this Steely Dan thing, this was a major void. Like, if there's any band that had a catalog void in this market that really deserved it, this is the band. I mean, every one of their records is almost, you know, a perfectionist nightmare in terms of, you know, just trying to make everything sound as good as humanly possible at the time. So
are you one who will go for all 7 UHQRs? I mean, I'm just curious.
Right now, honestly, my biggest one, the only one that was pre-ordered was Gaucho. That's my favorite album. It's in my top 10 list of just any artist. I just love that album front to back. I'll consider the others. I'm not pre-ordering anything. I'll wait till there's a street date and then look into it. But that's the only one that I'm like, I want to secure a copy of this, because it's just I just think it's such a remarkable album. I know Asia gets all the love, but to me, Gaucho is every bit as good. And I think there's a little bit more diversity in the musicianship in Gaucho. I think still, you know, Asia tends to have a lot of the same similar vibe track to track. In addition to I'll Be Drinking songs or songs about alcohol. But you know, there's not a lot of variety, whereas I think Gaucho kind of, you know, bends a little bit more in its you know, selections. And so, but it's just one of my top 10 favorite albums. So
wow. My two favorite are Pretzel Logic and Can't Buy a Thrill. I like Can't Buy a Thrill was so different at the time, and it's almost like a whole different thing because there's other singers on it, and I just love the feel of that record. It's a different thing. But you know, I guess I was a little frustrated because I did get the last two Warner Brothers records, 45 RPM. I know one's digital because it was recorded digitally or mastered digitally. You know, the Warner Brothers Steely Dan records, and thinking, God, he does these 45, and now we have to get, you know, the encyclopedia version, you know, for twice the price. So.
So do you think eventually, here's a question for us, let's throw this out. I mean, we have, you know, for instance, I mean, you know, with Steely Dan, the only, you know, true audiophile precedent was the Asia one that came out. What was this, 1982 was it, I think, that Mofi came out with this one? And it was probably around there.
That sounds right.
And then of course the Cisco version came out in 2007, and that's it. I mean, they haven't had an audiophile release since that time. So I mean, this is big news. Not even
a regular release. I mean, no, I don't think.
No.
Yeah.
So
there's been no standard release of the Steely Dan catalog since the vinyl resurgence.
Yeah. Didn't Mofi do the Katie Lied?
Oh, when Katie Lied, that's right.
Yeah.
Thank you. I have that somewhere, and I actually was looking for it. I don't know. You know, everyone probably the same problem. I can't find my Katie Lied right now. So yeah.
And then there's a Japanese SACD of Asia and Countdown to, I think Countdown's one of them, and they did a US Gaucho multi-channel SACD at some point too. So but it's not been consistent. Like it's not like, you know, what everyone dreamed of, which would be like either a box set or something like that. You know, I always thought, what if Mofi did a box set of Steely Dan or something like that, like they did the Beatles and they did Rolling Stones and the Sinatra?
Wouldn't that be something if Mofi does pull something like that eventually and does a complete box set of a big time band like the Beatles or Rolling Stones? I know it won't be the Beatles.
They did the Beatles one, and I'm not a fan of. I haven't.
And we talked about that too. The controversy surrounding the fact that maybe it wasn't from the master tapes, or I mean, they might have made a digital file.
Well, the Mofi box was Stan Ricker, I guess, did that from the master tapes, except Magic Mystery Tour. They used the American, without the monos, which was really bad. It's amazing when you think of Magic Mystery Tour that we talked about this. The German Horzu is the best sounding version.
I have that somewhere.
I think it came out in like 81 or 82 or something. Yeah, it's just, I mean, it's amazing. I remember first listening to that, has that extra intro bar on the Walrus, and I stopped because I know every little bit of those records, and I put that on just to listen to it, and dun 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 dun. It had that extra bar at the beginning. And I had to stop and put it on and repeat it 2 or 3 times.
Or I think it was 73 for the Horzu.
Was it 73? Okay, I'm a decade off in my life, so.
So is it a little frustrating, like that there's not like a one-stop shop for like a band? Like if you're a Beatles fan, if you're a Steely Dan fan, if you're a Rolling Stones fan, isn't it like a little frustrating that there's not like a one-stop shop of like,
you know,
this is the definitive thing?
And that was I was going to say that. So why, you know, we have all these big audiophile you know, companies like the Mofis and Analogue Productions. I'm surprised if this, you know, if the popularity continues, why wouldn't Universal just have their own audiophile version of everything and just cut the middleman out?
You know, the most frustrating thing is think of Joe Harley is a perfect example. Don says, come do for us what you did for MMJ. Come on. I don't know if he's freelancing on staff, whatever, it doesn't matter. He's doing it there. They don't have to pay licensing. There's no one. It's only unlimited in terms of how much they can get on press. Someone should go to that, but they're kind of, I hate to say they're lazy, but it again, streaming is their number one thing, even though records are coming up. And I have a good friend that works for a major on the streaming side. And I talk to her about it all the time. And I mean, they're making money on obviously on vinyl, but it's a whole different thing. You think that if Sony doesn't want to give the tapes out, get someone in house and play with those tapes.
I talked to Joe Harley. He was cutting records with Kevin Gray this week. So when he was at Kevin Gray's studio, and he put it on his Facebook today. If you guys saw that, Monk's first recording, first Blue Notes recording, he's put the master tape in there, and it's interesting. On the master tape, it says transferred from disc. If you guys saw that on the very bottom right hand side,
I didn't look closely.
Yeah, and it's so someone had actually asked, he said, Joe, like, what's going on? What's that mean, transfer from disc? And Joe's answer to that was this. He goes, since this is a 1947 pre-tape era, Rudy and Gelder transferred the acetate to an actual tape in the the original acetate to a tape in the early 1950s. So they had the
foresight.
Yeah. Well, Rudy had the foresight. I mean, this guy was well ahead of his time, as we all know. Looking at him now, right? Rudy Van Gelder.
He's a digital guy. He loved digital.
Well, yeah. Anyways, but back pre-tape era, 1947, they basically, and he did this in the early 50s, took the acetate and then transferred it to a tape copy. And that's what they used to master this Monk's first recording from Blue Note, which is, I guess, going to be coming out hopefully in the next few months.
Yeah. I mean, preservation to me is so vital, regardless of what format it's in. I mean, we're getting to the point where a lot of this stuff is going to deteriorate beyond repair. So the more releases that we have of some of these, I think it's vital.
You know what? And that's the thing. If Mofi would have come out from the very beginning, this whole DSD debacle debate, if they would have said, you know what, the best thing we can do as audiophiles is preserve the master tape. We're using it. We're going to make a DSD file because we feel it's the best to basically the best way to archive this information or this music. And that way we can always go back to this file and give you the best possible recording, directly from the master tape. If they would have done that 10 years ago or 2000, whenever that was, there would be no problem. People would be like, oh man, this is great. They would have been the forerunners of this and everyone would have been like on board. I don't know why they didn't do that.
Yeah. And even like Kevin Gray, I think he said in your interview that, he had a major upgrade with his studio like 10 years ago. And the stuff that he's doing now, he wants to be like, he wishes he could go and redo a lot of the stuff that he did in the old space with his new equipment, because I mean, it's like he's knocking stuff out of the park with that new setup.
Well, he did his one of his setups. It's the War Greatest Hits, Norman. I don't know if you have that album.
I have
he
it.
Did
I
that
do
on
have
the,
it.
He did that. One of the only ones he remastered on that whole tube amp system that he has. So if you guys have a copy of the Greatest Hits by War, knocks out of the park on that one.
I'm lucky I got it before Joe Harley on that live stream announced that. Mentioned that. All of a sudden, every copy on Discogs got
how much are they now on Discogs? I haven't looked.
I don't know. I got it in Record Store Day. It was a Record Store Day issue. 3 years ago, something like that.
So one other thing. Here's the thing. Billy Joel, the resurgence of Billy Joel and vinyl. What's going on? Because I remember
I'm going to stay out of this one.
3 years ago.
Can I stay out too?
2 or 3 years ago, Mofi couldn't give away Billy Joel records. They were you could get any Billy Joel on their website. They were never sold out. And all of a sudden, you see the Greatest Hits album, the Volume 1 and 2 Greatest Hits, the record. I mean, how much is that going from Discogs? They're like $50 to $100 per. That's non-Mofi.
That was the same though with Elvis Costello records. You could get those so easily on Mofi for a few years, But that's with all these records. Chad always says the Prestige stuff he was putting out, he had them for 10 years or something. They didn't sell out. The Bill Evans box, I got that from my friend Coffee Dave, like when we were doing my friend's collection, the Coleman collection sale last year. I go to his house and I said, you have the Bill Evans box. It was sitting on the floor sealed. He bought it 6-7 years ago. And he's not even a big jazz, but he's like I said, he goes, oh yeah, I bought it. It was like, I think I got it for $600. And I said, you want to trade? He goes, yeah, what do you got? And he wanted this Hendrix album, the purple plush thing. It was $150. I bought another. I gave him that and a few records, and I got that great Bill Evans box. And then of course now it's out for people at $900 or whatever.
I'm seeing a lot of people post that. He goes, I bit the bullet. Now I'm going to be only eating bread and water for the next month. It's a fantastic.
Yeah. Even though I'm against 45. I mean, I would rather again have that all 33s, but it's a great. I love Bill Evans. It's a fantastic.
Me too.
Set.
Yeah. Yep. Me too.
Yep.
Me too.
So no
Yeah, that
Billy
came-
Joel talk from me.
I'm not. No, I was just fascinated by that because I mean, I'm not going out to buy The Stranger on by Mofi. It's also been this file's also a DSD-64 file, by the way. I'm sure Nathan knows that.
Yep.
And then they have Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid by Bob Dylan, which is an incredible soundtrack. I mean, the acoustics on that soundtrack. I mean, if you really listen to that, wow.
I have
It
that
is
Mofi,
amazing.
and it sounds amazing.
I know.
Really good. But the original Columbia I also have, and it's a really good sounding. So if you have, I'm a big Dylan guy, and I still think most of the Mofi Dylan records are better than the originals as well, with a few exceptions. I love the Dylan stuff, and I love Dylan, but the original Columbia, with 73 or whatever it came out of that album, sounds so good. Just the lush acoustic guitars, the same Billy, like 6 versions or whatever it is of that kind of theme, but it's beautiful.
Yeah, and the harmonies just, I mean, they really fill up the space. That's it's incredible.
Yeah.
So
and I think if you guys don't, any of my viewers don't have the Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid, order that on Mofi. You will not be disappointed. I think it's like $35-40, right? It's a very good. It's a very good deal. Yeah. Get that one. I mean, it sounds fantastic. And then they have Miles Davis Sorcerer coming out as well, or is it out now? I think you can order that one.
I think it's sold out already.
Oh, really? Oh, shoot.
I think. Okay. See, hey, you snooze. What did Chad say? Buy now, cry later.
Yeah.
People thought these Mofis would slow down. I guess they're not in some cases.
I don't think they're having an issue at all.
Yeah, but the super vinyl, like anyone that just wants to be patient for the super vinyl releases, I think will be pleasantly surprised getting all of those reissued on a much quieter, pristine release. So,
well, a good example of that is again, I said I'm a Dylan fan. I lucked out and I saw it on Instagram, whatever. That's why I tell people, I don't care how old you are. When people say I don't do social, I don't do this, I don't do Instagram, sign up for Instagram and follow Mofi and acoustic sound. Your favorite bands and labels. That's how I get a lot of this stuff. And I got the Dylan Desire Super Vinyl, and the original record on Columbia, that doesn't sound very good. It's muffled. It's not good. But that record, now I don't know, the non-Super Vinyl probably sounds good too, but oh my God, that's a wonderful record, because that came right after Blood on the Tracks 2 years later.
Yeah.
And Blood on the Tracks sounds so good. And Desire never was anywhere close sound-wise.
I would agree with you. I have the original Desire as well, the Columbia Canadian version as well, very muffled. Just doesn't sound too defined. And then I got the Super Vinyl Mofi, and it just blew my mind out. Mozambique is one of my favorite songs of all time from Dylan as well. I'm not sure about you, Norm, but wow,
it's great.
Yeah. I think they did 1,000 copies of the Super Vinyl, if I'm not mistaken, right?
I did something funny about that about 2 years ago. I did a video on that actual Desire album, because as a Super Vinyl, it was limited release. You're right, 1,000, and I said at some point it'll be worth at least $1,000, and of course I was wrong. I think they're about $400 to $500 if I'm not mistaken. And my reason was this: I looked at Santana's Abrascus, and they only cut 2,500. And that at the time when I did that video, they were going for $25,000 to $33,000. I thought, okay, it's Bob Dylan. He's getting up there in age. You never know if he passes away. It's going to increase the value of all these albums. And I thought, okay, this is one of the reasons, because it's a rare album, but hasn't gotten there yet. But maybe one day.
You're investing in the dead. You're investing in the future death of artists to make your.
So let me be clear. No, at all. I do not want anyone to pass away. I'm just saying. I mean, we all are only on this earth for so long. So at some point,
obvious choice for them would be Super Vinyl of Abraxas. Why not, right?
I know. We know they have the DSD file. We know that. Yeah. Because there's still you can still get the Abrascus SACD. And here's another thing too, though, why the vinyl versions sound better. Yeah. Well, that too, because SACD, they have to downsample it to make it on SACD. So with the actual vinyl, they don't downsample it. It stays at DSD 256. It's not downsampled, right? So I think that's one of the big reasons. I haven't heard anyone talk about their comparison between the SACD version that Mofi has and the Super Vinyl version, or the one step. I'd be curious. Yeah. Does anyone have any idea? Has anyone heard anything about that? I haven't. Not one person.
No, not one of us.
There's an idea. There's an idea for any of you YouTubers out there watching.
Yeah, I'm not the one that does really. I
No,
do very few comparisons. That's not my thing. Michael 45 does it, and handful of other people. Patrick,
Well, I do a few too, obviously. Oh, there you go.
Yeah, but I just don't. That's not my. I did the Waiting for Columbus one, and because I have my original Warner Brothers. I have the first Mofi, the '79, and I have the new Bernie Grunman cut, and they all sound great. So any one you have is wonderful. But I gave the Mofi the edge, and Michael says, "Mazzy, you're wrong." I said, "Well," he goes, "get rid of that flat screen TV over your stereo. You're wrong. It doesn't sound good." So we had a disagreement on that.
So my viewers don't know it's Michael 45R Audiophile, his YouTube channel. That's
and I consider him a friend.
Yes, I know. You guys are friends. Yeah.
We're rivals, arch rivals.
Are you rivals now or friends?
No, there's this. Anyway, I don't get into that. We're good. We're just in a different thing now. So.
Well, just say hi, Michael, if he's watching.
Yeah.
Okay, so I wanted to talk about, I know we're going to go digital here. We don't have much more time. I don't want to keep you guys, but I mean, I asked you to pick some SACDs for my SACD fans out there. I'll start with Nathan. Start with your first one. Tell us why you like this one, sound-wise, et cetera, et cetera. Go for it.
Captain Fantastic.
Oh, wow.
Elton John. So honestly, all of the Elton John SACDs that they released are pretty good, but this one here, I mean, this is one of my favorite Elton John albums, and this sounds so good in multi-channel. So that's why I picked this. This is kind of a, maybe not what was expected, but I mean, this is a great one to have. So
who mastered that one?
I do not know. Okay. I do not.
That is my favorite, best sounding Elton John records, and especially the recording and the drums and Someone Saved My Life Tonight. Oh my God.
It's a great
Gus
song.
Dudgeon, his production, and Nigel Olson's drumming on that, it soars. Yeah.
Curtains is one of my favorite Elton John songs, period. I mean, it's just so, yeah, the drums are just huge. I mean, this is not like what you would expect when you think of like an Elton John production. Like most people don't think of like these huge, like snarly drums and, toms and, this like percussive thing. But I mean, this album is killer. So,
I mean, the dry drums he gets on Better Off Dead, when it goes like really dry at the end. Oh God, it's explosive. It's a great record. I think it's a good choice.
Good choice. Okay, Norman.
Well, this might be cheating, but my 2 out of my 3 are accidental SACDs, and I no longer do surround. I got rid of my surround setup. I got this new Hagel amp this past year, just great 2-channel. It changed my whole system. But I got these, and I didn't buy them because they're SACDs, but they just happen to be the hybrid thing. And this is Bob Dylan. This is this set. It came out 2003. It's interesting about this. It's not every album. So it's not like the big box of the Columbia things, but it has Free Will and Bring It Back Home, Highway 61, Blonde on Blonde, but also has Nashville Skyline, Blood in the Tracks, Desire, Street Legal, Slow Train, Oh Mercy, and Love and Theft. So it goes, it's an interesting company, but they're all SACDs.
Wow.
And I think these go for a lot now, actually. And of course, I almost got rid of this when I got the big Columbia, the entire catalog box of CDs. That's a red, longer box, but all SACDs. So I know this is kind of cheating, but it's one unit. So
no, that's cool.
I call it by
so if anyone doesn't know who issued that, what company was
Columbia.
It?
This was just a regular Columbia issue. And I didn't buy it because, I mean, this is my period of time. I went through about a 18-year no vinyl. I put my vinyl, I used to have 6,000 albums. In 95, I sold, like my son was 5 years old. I sold a third of my collection. So 2,000 of my records, one of those typical my generation mistakes, but, and I was all in on compact discs, and especially Dylan stuff. When this came out, they're DSDs, and Columbia put them out, and SAD surround and stereo and CD audio. and they're really good. It's really good. I don't remember who mastered them.
Yeah.
I just didn't know either. So, I can look while you're talking, but.
Okay,
those are a mixture. Those are a mixture, though. Some are mono, some are stereo, and there's a few in there that are multi-channel, and the multi-channel ones are pretty good in that set.
George Marino.
Okay.
And this whole concept, if you know the name Steve Berkowitz, Steve Berkowitz was the legacy guy that Apple brought to do the Beatles monobox. They hired him to do that.
Berkowitz worked with Sean McGee to cut the 2014 monobox.
Exactly. Yeah, they brought him because he was doing such a great job with Miles, all the legacy stuff. In fact, Jeff Jones, the head of Apple now, came from Legacy. So
interesting. So mine, I wanted to show this one. It's not SACD, but I'll tell you why I chose this one. Going back, this is the whole DSD controversy. If you want to talk Mofi and DSD, this is the very first time Mofi used DSD. Was 1997 or 1998 when they issued this gold 24 karat gold audiophile CD of Tom Petty's Full Moon Fever. Sounds great. I mean, it sounds exact. I mean, I don't have much to compare it to. I have the original CD, Canadian version CD, but I love listening. I love reading in the back. I mean, they're basically talking about their gain system here back in 1997, 1998. The gain technology substantially decreases characteristics and such as hardness and glare, bringing the sound of CDs even closer to the warmth and openness of analog. There it is.
That's a Jeff Lynne producer. Is that a Jeff Lynne producer?
Jeff Lynne produced this one, yeah. And this was done, the first file made of DSD for Mofi was this one here, Tom Petty, Full Moon Fever. So any trivia buffs out there, this is the first DSD.
Wow. Did not know that.
Go ahead, Mazzy.
No, it's
Nathan. Norman. Nathan, sorry, go.
Okay, all right. I will Tubular Bells, Mike Oldfield. In stereo or multi-channel, this is just, I mean, if there's really an album that warrants some sort of creativeness with surround sound multi-channel, I mean, Mike Oldfield was like 23, 24 whenever he put this together. I mean, the guy's a genius, and some of the innovative stuff that he did with this, record 50 years ago, I mean, it's remarkable. And thanks to The Exorcist, it became a popular thing. I mean, but that's just like that's like a little snippet of how remarkable this album is. So that's my selection right there. Yes.
That's my ringtone, by the way.
Yes. Love it. Your turn.
Yeah, Exorcist, that what Richard Branson made him all the money. That was the explosion for Virgin, definitely. I'm going to go with my favorite guitar player of all times, and I'm going with a Mofi, and that's Ry Cooder. And I love Ry Cooder, and I think actually the three vinyl records they did were Boomer Story, which was his third record. They did Paradise and Lunch, and they did Chicken Skin Music, and I believe these are all analog.
All analog.
The vinyl.
Yeah, they are.
Obviously.
They are all analog.
And it's, I mean, a very bluesy sound, but the track on here that just always gets me it's a classic soul song, Dark End of the Street. And there's a great YouTube video of him doing it with these black background singers that toured with him. This is it's an instrumental version. Here's a bottleneck guitar. It is so sweet and so sexy and sounds so good. And I have the obviously original vinyl reprise records, which do sound really good. But I would say the vinyl version and this SACD version is really good. And I think these are pretty cheap. I don't think they are. They were huge sellers. But the Ry Cooder stuff's really great. I
bet you can probably still get them on the Mofi website.
Yeah. So you can get them somewhere. They're around.
Yeah, they're around, and not for a lot either.
They're usually $19.99. It's crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean it's a no-brainer if you're into especially that album. It's great.
Okay, so mine here next. Even Norman was young when these guys were around.
Colin Blunstone and Rod Argent.
That's right. The Zombies' greatest hits. This was a Steve Hoffman mastered mastered by his Audio Fidelity when he worked for Audio Fidelity in the early 2000s. This is a 2002 Audio Fidelity SACD mastered by Steve Hoffman. They've got some mono cuts on here, some stereo cuts in here. This is, I mean, if you like the Zombies, you like that 60s sort of music. I mean, I love this album. I mean, every single song, there's 20 tracks in this song. They did alternate mixes of the time of the season as well. Well worth a pickup if you can.
I'd like to get that because I think
I'll put that up there.
Can you turn around turn it around the back? I don't know
for sure. Yeah.
And any of the tracks there from Odyssey and Oracle, that's one of the best sounding records. It's so lush, so harmonic, so beautiful, and I bet you there's got to be 3 or 4 tracks from that album on there.
Yep,
so good. Wow, I would look for that.
They look for it.
Too bad the jacket art. Too bad the jacket art sucks on that.
Yeah, it's kind of like reissue sucky, right?
Yeah, and then and then here's what it looks like inside. So
yeah, interesting.
Yeah, especially since the Odyssey and the Oracle artwork is one of my favorite jackets of all time. I mean, that thing's beautiful.
Have you ever noticed they spelled, and it was a mistake, they spelled Odyssey wrong too.
Oh, interesting.
Yep.
Then they said, oh, it's only psychedelic. That's how,
I thought it's because they were trying to cram it in on that script.
I think I have an autograph, the box set that came out on vinyl a few years ago. I got it the day I was in New York, and the day after they got into the Hall of Fame, the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, I got that box set autographed by all but one, all the living members. And they were on this panel and they were talking about that. And they said, we did that right before we went to press. Someone noticed it was spelled wrong. So we kind of perpetrated the myth that it was a psychedelic thing. It's supposed to be spelled wrong. So
right.
There you go. Okay, who's next?
Nathan.
Nathan, go.
Oh, okay. Moody Blues, Seventh Sojourn, one of my also probably my top 10 records of all time. And this is a multi-channel as well as stereo. I have some of the other Moody Blues SACDs that they did, but I mean this is just one of my favorite albums. So I mean I highly recommend any version that you can possibly have of this.
You kids are not into new music at all? Like, this is all my generation's crap.
No, the new stuff is terrible.
I can't stand the new stuff. My teenage daughter listens to Travis Scott and all this hip hop stuff. I hear it all the time when I'm in the car, but I can't.
That's another discussion. Sometimes there's a lot of great music. They just not that stuff, maybe, but
Yeah.
So. Yeah.
How much does that one go for that you just had up there at the Dobies?
Not sure. I mean, I picked it up for probably under $20 whenever. Let's see, it was 2007 ish.
Yeah.
It's a Decca Music release. I don't. So this is coming up on. In November. Will be the 50th anniversary of this.
Wow.
Amazing.
Can you say Audiophile release again or something?
Yes.
Yeah.
I would be.
It's really unfortunate that I love Days of Future Past. And it as great as that album is, there's not really a great sounding version. And when they did their 50th anniversary stuff, the records were terrible. They sound so bad. I have a British copy that sounds pretty good, but for some reason that record deserves a lush sound. It's so beautiful.
Yep.
Yeah. My final choice again is my accidental SACD, one of my collections from 2002. And I just grabbed a handful of this artist catalog. And this is another thing, they put out SACDs, and I didn't buy it because of that. And that's the Rolling Stones, this whole series. These are all SACDs that APCO put out. They're stereo, they're not surround, but they're, I have the whole catalog of everything. And what's great about it, they also did on the earlier records, they did the American and the British configuration. So Aftermath, there's a UK and American, and which is kind of interesting. I like that. Like with any of you got the mono box, the Stones mono box, in that has American and US configurations, which is, and UK. But SACDs, Stones, I'm a big Stones fan, obviously, too. So I know I showed, I'm double showing the catalog rather than the single. If I had to pick one, this is my favorite Stones album. So, and they use the band cover or the alternate cover.
Yep, it's a good one.
Okay, so I think this is the best bang for your buck. You can pick these up for a song right now. 30th anniversary. It was issued by Capitol. This is the Pink Floyd's Dark Side of the Moon by Capitol SACD. And I just open it up here. And it says here 5.1 surround mixed by James Guthrie, assisted by Joe Plant. And then the DSD offering for the SACD was done by a guy named Gus Skinnes. Anyways,
yeah,
that's good. That's good.
$20, $25. This is a 30th
and it's really
anniversary.
Good. It's really
it is
good.
really
yeah.
It is really good. Yes.
Agreed.
For the
I
price.
Think it just sold.
Yeah. So if you can find
another copy.
If you can find it, it's the Capitol 2003 Capitol version SACD of Dark Side of the Moon. One thing we should learn, I mean, we know the Animals came out. You did a video on the Animals. That was a good one. Norm, I liked yours. I did one on the Animals, the 2018 mix. Everyone should know that when Grundman gets these, he doesn't do anything. James Guthrie is the one that basically sends him the file, and it just gets cut directly from that file to vinyl. So it's just basically nothing that Bernie's doing. It's all from Guthrie.
I actually like the 2016 issues of Pink Floyd. Some people are iffy, and he also around that same time, I think he did the Kate Bush reissues too, which are really good.
He did. Their Kate Bushes are really
digital. Good. Yeah, I like those.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, this is great, guys. I think we did it. Another roundtable edition. I really appreciate your time, and maybe in the next couple of weeks we'll get back on, and I don't know, we'll figure another something else to talk about. There's always something to talk about. It's audiophile news, right? Some other.
So November, the first Steely Dan comes out.
November. Do we have the date, Nathan? Do you have the
November
date?
4th? I think November 4th.
So November 4th, Can't Buy a Thrill, and then like Chad told me, 80 days after that, we should see the next release in chronological order.
So if you invite me back, I'll bring my $29 Universal digital version. And
I can't wait.
And I'll compare it to my original. I have original ABC, so I'll compare it to that.
That'd be good.
Yeah.
All right, well, gentlemen, thank you so much.
Take it
Have
easy.
a good weekend. All right, bye-bye.
Thank you.
Okay.